If you build a homemade cigar box guitar, you are going to have to try to tame this beast to play your own music.
There's no rules of how to play it, how to tune it, how to string it, how many strings are on it. So now you're making your own music.
There is certainly a camaraderie that's involved there that comes with the instruments and the music.
These concerts are like a family reunion. Every day we get on to the Cigar Box Guitar Forum online.
They're an odd bunch of characters, but they're about the nicest people that you'll run across.
I don't write on that guitar. I wrote what I heard when I picked it up. The songs are already in there. You have to listen for them. You don't put them in.
All they want to do is pull this music out of this little wooden box.
That is a cigar box from about the 1930s.
Wow.
It's made out of...
Beautiful cedar.
Yeah.
But a thicker box, thicker wood, and taller is going to be a better tone, in my experience.
We came to Huntsville, Alabama, down in the southern sun, trunk full of homemade guitars, looking to have some fun. If you like your music primal, glass sliding on the strings, your fingers do the talking, the cigar box guitar sings. If you like your music homemade, that's the stuff for you when there finally comes a time a store-bought guitar just won't do. Hell yeah! We're glad you're here at the Cigar Box Guitar Jamboree.
Welcome to the annual Cigar Box Guitar Extravaganza in Huntsville, Alabama. It's not a huge event, but it's a big deal to cigar box guitar enthusiasts from across the United States who come together here. Now, folks have been making music from cigar boxes for centuries, but it's only in recent years that they've come together in any way. United through an internet discussion forum, cigar box guitar builders and players have experienced an explosion of creativity and newfound freedom of expression. They call it the Cigar Box Guitar Revolution, and it took a wacky guy with a big vision to bring them together.
My name is Shane Spiel. I am the self-proclaimed king of the cigar box guitar. I came up with a life goal, basically. My life goal was, when I die, I want to have achieved legendary status. And I chose one thing in particular to focus on.
Jug fusion.
I've built other instruments, I've played other kinds of music, but I picked one thing to go after. So with one little stroke of a keyboard on a website, I became the king of the cigar box guitar several years ago. People started sending me emails, so I started helping them out. The more I helped people out, the more they were helping other people out. And it just grew and grew and grew.
Devotion like a curse.
This is our revolution. Instead of holding pitchforks, we're holding cigar box guitars. We're helping each other out. We're picking each other up. We're helping each other organize shows. This is our revolution. Is it screwed? Is it messed up? Absolutely. This is who we are. This is what we sound like. And this is our show.
Bill Jaggich is a computer technician who performs at blues festivals and nightclubs as Blues Boy Jag.
Cigar box guitars fit in with the style of music that I play. I saw an article in a magazine called Make, which is designed for people to make their own things at home, electronic devices, all sorts of devices. Well, I've been playing guitar for 30 years, so I saw the cover of Make, and I was familiar with the concept of a cigar box guitar, and a lot of the blues folks started out on a cigar box guitar. I've read about all that. And I thought, that might be fun to do. Right after I started making the guitars, I got on the internet, and I knew there had to be a small microcosm of folks that were making them and or playing them, even though it wasn't mainstream. Sure enough, they were there. I've been on the group for about 2.5 years. So now 2.5 years later, I'm finally meeting these folks. Today was the first time I've met any of them. The old days, pre-internet, where you'd have to just struggle and do everything on your own and learn what worked and what didn't work, which takes years. Now with the internet, and not just cigar box guitar, but virtually any subject that you can imagine, there is a group of folks who know all the answers that you're going to have. These guitars enable me to play in a different style. I can sit down with a cigar box guitar without having played one for a week or two, and invariably the first 2 or 3 licks that I come up with become a song immediately, because I can get sounds that I like out of it quicker and easier, because it's a different sound, it's tuned differently, it's a whole different ball game.
Chowder make you say it louder. Put your hands in the air, do the fat girl stomp. I don't like a stick, I need a girl that's thick. Why you want a twig when you can have the whole tree? And beans and chowder make you say it louder. Put your hands in the air, do the fat girl stomp.
I initially learned about cigar box guitars through a patient that I encountered. I work as a ears, nose, and throat head and neck surgeon, and I encountered a gentleman who subsequently, needed surgery to correct his problem, and during the course of his hospitalization, became pretty good friends with him, and he brought me the first guitar after he had introduced me to the concept of it, and from there, I ended up in the festival at Huntsville.
Kirk Withrow took up the hobby about a year ago. He's been building instruments, writing songs, and recording in his home studio ever since.
Making new instruments brought with it new songs. Almost each one of them had songs that I hadn't before played and really couldn't play without that instrument. While you're making one, inevitably, something else hits you. You say, well, what if I put a resonator in here? Well, you got to put a resonator in the next one. When you do that, you'll decide, well, what if I put a magnetic pickup in here? And it just kind of takes over. There are a more than average number of one-man bands associated with cigar box guitars, and so I then started making some foot drums. They weren't that great sounding, so I knew a good friend of mine that had played drums in the past and asked if I could just borrow his drums. And then dawned on me that I should just get him to play the drums and free my feet up and I wouldn't have to worry with it. Another good friend decided he wanted to play, and so I ended up making him a one-string bass, and we kind of taught him how to play a little music, and he joined right in. It basically means freedom to express yourself in however you see fit.
And I'm singing about amazing grace, how sweet the sound saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, now I see. We're all walking through the valley of the shadow of death. We're all walking through it every day. We're tired and we're scared, we hope, and we'll make it through whole. But if we trust in God's grace, it'll help us to face the dangers of our weary way. It'll lead us beside the peaceful waters of the soul.
David Williams sometimes plays his homemade instruments at church. He works as a scientist.
As a scientist, I'm dealing with precision, and accuracy, and the cigar box guitar is sort of the antithesis of that.
Now I'm bound, I was blind, now I see.
A few people have heard of a cigar box guitar. Very few people have seen a cigar box guitar, and very, very few people have heard what a cigar box guitar sounds like. And so, my expectations were sort of low, but it's just magical that you built something for cheap. I mean, it's less than the cost of a CD, and it sounded, that good.
So if you got the jug band spirit, primal music in your soul, it's in your head, you hear it, it's not on your radio. Cigar box guitar might be the way to go. Cigar box guitar might be your new mojo.
Shane Spiel had sort of been suggesting that that I look into a CD by a fella named Eddie One String Jones, and he said that it would change my life, and he was absolutely right.
With a simple costume change, David Williams becomes One String Willie.
One String Willie went to France, buy his gal some underpants, bought underpants and a matching bra. Willie's gal said, oh la la. One String Willie, he went to Spain. Them Spanish women all called his name. Stepped in the middle of the bullfight ring and made the big bull dance to his one string.
I'm a biochemist, and so basically we try to strip things down so that we're working with the minimum number of things, so the minimum number of types of molecules, so that we can really understand what's going on. So it's really natural for me to try to strip this down to minimum.
Cigar box guitars became very popular in the 1920s. Before then, people were making other instruments from their trash. Shane Spiel has assembled a collection he calls the National Cigar Box Guitar Museum, and guitar maker Bill Yaley has researched references in print.
We start in the very late 1700s, where we have the first evidence of a cigar box being a consumer-grade product. Then we have the Civil War, where Edwin Forbes, a sketch artist for Frank Leslie's illustrated newspaper, he draws a sketch of two soldiers, one playing a cigar box violin.
This is a cigar box fiddle from 1886, and when I found it, the family of the original owner had it completely documented, and so I know it was built for a 5-year-old in 1886, and this is what he learned to play fiddle, or to play violin on, actually. And it's absolutely beautiful. If you look here, the neck was completely hand carved, most likely with a pocket knife, and even the tuners were hand carved one by one. And so yes, it is a little crude, but it's an absolutely beautiful American primitive piece.
Then we move on to a cigar box banjo, which is captured by Daniel Carter Beard in his work, The American Boy's Handy Book.
Beard's programs for boys led to the Boy Scouts of America. He wanted to help industrial-age boys find their primitive inner savage.
This is a banjo from 1810, and it is very similar to the original plans that were written in 1870s by Daniel Carter Beard the gentleman that started the Boy Scouts. And this is a crudely made cigar box banjo, but it was fully playable at the time, you could tell. And there's a lot of wear on it from whenever he did play it. It appears that they even glued pictures of flowers from a magazine on there to decorate it. But this is an absolutely fabulous piece, and this was given to me by Dr. Tony Hyman of the National Cigar Museum in California.
Then we have Edward Nunes or his student Kamaka, who build the first cigar box ukuleles, and then moving into the last phase where it actually becomes a cigar box guitar in the 1920s, when the guitar becomes the instrument of choice for performers.
Is there anything profound about the cigar box guitar in contribution to music history? Jimi Hendrix started on the cigar box guitar. Yeah, there's a lot of things that a cigar box guitar was part of. As far as making major contributions, it was always the person who built the guitar, not the guitar, until now. Until now with this revolution. I mean, how many people have always said, I'm gonna write a book someday, I'm gonna write a book, and they never write the damn book? We're basically telling everybody in this revolution, wouldn't it be cool to record your own album? Do it. Just do it. With whatever you have. Wouldn't it be cool to make a guitar? Just do it.
X-ray technician Jerry Thompson has overcome death several times as years of hard living led to years of poor health. He had his second liver transplant just 3 weeks before this performance.
I don't need to cut myself to prove you I bleed. I don't need to make no list just to prove I got need. Don't need no picture of Mohammed to prove that there's a God. But I got no emotions, girl, and you know, think that's odd. Slap me, mama, let's see if I cry. Slap me, mama, hell, I think something inside's died. Slap me, mama, let's see if I'm real. Slap me, mama, let's see how it feels. Let's see how it feels.
My songs are rough and they're kind of broken and hedged together, and they fit my instruments perfectly. And without them, I'd have all this stuff bottled up inside me. And it's nice to get things out. I mean, I've had a lot of weird things happen to me and a lot of strange thoughts, and the outlet for that is, and has been since I met Shane and those, is like, here's something, build whatever you want, sing whatever you want, write whatever you want, and it can sound like anything you want.
I like the big dark secrets in a smile.
I spent a lot of time really depressed, like not having anything creatively to give. And to suddenly, at like 45 years old, discover that like, I can do this. What a joy. Making my own guitars, without a doubt, has given me the freedom to like complete the entire act. Like, I enjoy making my guitar as much as I enjoy writing the song that fits that particular guitar. I make mine with 4 strings and frets with a guitar length neck, and I tune them like a mandolin because the chords are good for my small stubby hands.
It's a grisly story, one I know is true. I miss my honey, just like old Winnie the Pooh.
I've known most of the people involved with the cigar box thing for about 4 years or so, and I've never known any of them while I was healthy. Like, I've been sick the entire time. I've been fading away slowly but surely.
I'm barely breathing, barely alive without you.
I think everybody should learn to sing. I mean, like, I don't think I have a particularly good voice, and I was told all my life, oh God, please don't sing. And once I finally got to the point where I'd sit in front of people and open my mouth and just let it out and not care what they thought, what a freedom. It just made me feel so alive.
Johnny Lobo is the stage name of John Lowe, who makes Lobo guitars, known for their thunderous sound and unique capabilities.
I play stream of consciousness blues rock, pretty much, I guess. I don't know. It really it defies categories because it's kind of spontaneous, and I'll vary from genre, but it's basically based on my experience as a child listening to rock radio more than anything else, I guess.
First got her, she was at the pal.
Well, I have to use 2 amps because this is a bass and a guitar. There's the top string is a bass and the bottom 3 are a guitar, and so I've got 2 different outputs for each amplifier. My thumb plays the bass and my fingers play the guitar. My first double neck was, they were like a half foot apart, and I had them so I could feed back 2 amps at once, like Jimi Hendrix would do back in the classic rock days. I had a customer, Richard Johnson, want a 3-stringer. He saw my instrument that had 2 necks and suggested making a conjoined neck model. Conjoined means that they're pushed together as to function as one. Richard was able to play foot drums. He was inspired by Jesse May Hemphill's tambourines and stuff, and started playing foot drums with it, and completed the one-man band ensemble.
I'm still drinking woman. Spend all my money at the grocery store. I'm still drinking woman. Spend all my money out at the grocery store. Cause she'll only drink the good stuff. She won't drink that Falstaff beer no more.
When you see one of these instruments, you kind of want to build one because you see that it is attainable. That's the kind of the point of the revolution. You don't have to go out and buy a $10,000 guitar. You can tinker with stuff in your own house and make one out of found objects on a weekend with your children and have something that's really inspirational. The myth of cigar box guitars is that it was a mark of shame, like the Sears and Roebuck clothes, that only poor people that couldn't afford anything better played them. But the truth is that they're an excellent instrument in their own right with a good tone, and I would think that a lot of the modern children are deprived by not having a cigar box guitar.
David Smith found that homemade instruments added just the right ingredient to his music. In his day job, he mixes ingredients to make medications.
They told me to be a musician, you had to be into drugs, and I didn't want to get hooked on anything, so I got a job in pharmaceutical research. A few years ago, I was playing on high-end production instruments. I had a guitar set up where I could change the tuning by stepping on a pedal. It was absolutely crazy technology. And there was absolutely no mojo in the music I was producing. It was all way too detached. The road to St. Paul, I met a green-eyed girl. Long, long black hair, soft white skin like a pearl, wearing a tight, tight black dress. I'm unzipping and slipping off. I don't know if I'll make it to St. Paul. I don't know if I'll make it to St. Paul. Now I can take these instruments that are nowhere near as smooth or easy to play as what I was playing before, and I can do all the stuff I need to do on them. It's sort of like I feel like I've accomplished something. Some folks go slow, but I can't take that speed. Got to step on the gas and go, 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 go. In a hurry, down the highway, can't be worried, got time to save. Yeah, I'm rushing to the funeral, where I'll find my own grave. Now blue-haired lady sitting on my front bumper, why do you go so slow? Got to get out the way, so I can put the pedal to the floor. I like nylon strings, classical guitar strings, and you can't use a regular pickup with those. So for the most part, I use piezo benders, which essentially are the element that makes a doorbell buzzer buzz. It's a magical sense of things that comes out of a simpler, more primitive view of the world. We have legitimately transcended it in civilization, but we lose something in discarding what we've transcended.
If you want to build a cigar box guitar, you'll need some strings, a stick, and a box. Bill Yaley shows us how they go together.
For strings, of course, just any old guitar string would do just fine. The stick part of it started off life as just a piece of green poplar here, and you know, these came out of the same board, and this has been cut and sanded and everything to form the neck. And the last piece, the box, is this example here. This is a cigar box made out of western cedar, and I've already done a lot of work with this. I've cut some sound holes. And on the inside, you can see where I've got, this is actually a tambourine in here, and I've removed the skin from the top, and I've attached a spun aluminum cone on here to make a resonator. So the neck will attach to this heel block here, and when this is closed, the strings will come through this piece of hardware over the nut, which is just a brass nut and bolt here. And when these two pieces go together, this will actually form the cigar box guitar. But once the strings go on, the neck is attached to the cigar box, either glued or screwed in place. The strings are brought up to tension for the first time, tuned up, and it plays its first chord. And it's that moment that's so magical for making a cigar box guitar.
You start with raw materials, a cigar box, a piece of wood, some strings, you've made a guitar. The bodies are so much smaller on the cigar box guitar, so that there's automatically a different tone, especially if you're thinking of an acoustic guitar. You don't have a big body that's projecting a lot of sound, but you have this tinny banjo kind of sound that's coming out of something smaller that's not generating as much volume.
To get more volume, you've got to add electronic pickups, either factory-made, hand-wound, or piezoelectric transducers.
The hand-wound pickups are basically just like a factory pickup, but the fact is, if you're using a 3 or 4 string, nobody really makes a pickup like that. So it's something that you have to basically fabricate yourself. Piezo pickups are different forms. I mean, you can buy a $2.50 piezo buzzer from Radio Shack and a jack, and you've got a pickup. And there's companies out there that make soundboard transducers, which is the same thing as a piezo, and you basically mount it to your soundboard either outside or internally in the cigar box.
The number one rule when you're making a cigar box guitar is that there are no rules.
In the cigar box guitar revolution, everybody does what they want to do. There is no specific, set of 1 through 10 steps to make a guitar.
Is the cigar box guitar an art or a craft? The cigar box guitar is a virus. It's a sickness. You make one, you've got to make another. You become obsessed with it, you start playing with it. It's a possession.
Well, closing dust behind me, many miles to go. Closing dust behind me, on this child of nails and woe. Well, my face is covered with ashes, heart is cold as snow. Face is covered with ashes, on this path of nails and woe.
The New Age hillbilly is Tomi-O Hartwell's stage name. We visited him in Hinton, West Virginia for some building tips, and he played a few songs for us.
It was Shane Spill's music, his CD Jug Fusion, that got me interested. And when I opened the cover, it said how to make a cigar box guitar. I'm a carpenter by trade, so I said, I'll give this a shot. 4 years later, I'm still doing it, still playing, and enjoying it more now than I ever have. Like anything you really do, I guess you would gain more respect and more love for something that you create and do yourself. You're building a raw instrument out of just junk parts. And then when you build it and it works, it's just like, hey, I've done something. And then you start writing your own music with it. And it's a part of you. It's almost like another appendage, I would say. Shane Spill himself uses guitars of mine. A couple other people play them. Joe Buck, bass player for Hank Williams III. Hank Williams III he plays one. Ed King from Leonard Skinner, I've made one for him. Shane Spill gives me the drive to do the stuff that I do, and he makes me push the envelope to do something different with it.
Robert Hamilton toured with a rock band in the 1990s. Then he left music for a while. When tragedy brought him back to music, he found that a Tomi-O Hartwell guitar gave voice to his pain.
The real catalyst for me personally getting into cigar box guitar music and playing a cigar box guitar was intertwined with an event in my life. I had an uncle who had committed suicide around Christmas time about 5 years ago. And shortly thereafter, I became more involved in doing music again going back and playing blues and stuff that I had always listened to growing up. And as a result of that, came across Tomi-O and ordered a cigar box guitar from him.
Hamilton's group, the Low Country Messiahs, couldn't join him for this performance, so Shane Spiel stepped in with another Tomi-O guitar in hand.
There's a wanderer in my soul. There's a wanderer in my soul. I'm working for my Savior. Church I'm fully saved today. And I'm walking the straight and narrow way. Ain't no evil can be found. I'm working for my Savior.
To come across an entire population of folks out there that are doing similar things, it's inspiring and it's supportive too. When I first joined the forum, I was really kind of taken aback by some of the things that people were doing, and it gave me some ideas and some different ways to maybe approach doing music. I think the whole concept of there not being really any rules or stipulations is terrific. This is a really exciting opportunity, and that's what drew me to come down here, 1,500 miles to play.
Come little baby, come with me. Come little baby, gonna set you free. Come little baby, come take my hand. Devil's honey raining on the land.
I'm from kind of south central Florida, around Okeechobee, kind of out in the swamp area. I don't make my own instruments. I have fooled around with different instruments and played them, but I haven't played those on stage. The first homemade instrument I got was from John Lowe. And I thought it was really cool the way that, John Lowe and some of these guitar makers that are doing it now have taken that primitive style and the primitive sound and brought it in where it's actually applicable for today's musicians.
I just think the devil's got a hold on my soul. He's not gonna let it go. I just think he's gone, but he's never gone from wrong. When I think I put him down, here comes another round.
With these cigar box instruments, they're so unique, the way they're set up and tuned, that you can get new and different sounds from these instruments that haven't been done before.
Ben Prestige made a new friend at the Cigar Box Guitar Extravaganza in Philip Eggers, maker of Sigtone guitars. Prestige tried out a 6-string while Eggers looked on like a proud papa. Later that night, Prestige gave the Sigtone a real workout on stage. He's been playing cigar boxes since he was a child.
My dad did make a cigar box guitar when I was first starting to play. He made a little small one with a little homemade neck, and he was telling me about how, guys in Mississippi, all these old guys, he had seen those, and he made me one, I think it had 2 strings and no pickup. So I never played it out live, I just fool around at home with slide and stuff. With the cigar box, there's just a whole different sound that comes out of those, That's why I'm here. I'm here to hear all the other guys that are getting these different sounds out of these primitive instruments. And each individual guitar has a personality in its own. I'm touring around now and I'm doing the one-man band thing. There's nowhere else in the world that has a festival like this. All homemade primitive instruments, And I think it really has a potential to take off and be a big festival.
She's got a swing in her hip. Every little thing that's gonna make my mind step into confusion, spinning around. Make me lay my mojo down. Cutest little girl I ever
ever seen. If you ever seen the girl, you know what I mean. She got away.
Lobo has a totally unique voice to it. It's not just a guitar simulation or a guitar made of homemade materials. There's a voice in this instrument. The fact that I know how to strum it or play it with a slide that I learned how to do on a guitar does not change the fact that when I put this instrument on, it's just a whole different matter. The thinking, the feeling, and the capability of this instrument are just way beyond the other stringed instruments I played. It has a greater range. It's a true one-man band instrument all by itself. What is a cigar box supposed to sound like? That's the question that we can't answer, right? It's an unanswerable question. There's not a parameter established for this instrument. You see somebody put on a Fender Stratocaster, you have an idea of what might be coming. When you see a cigar box, you do not know what is going to come out. There is not an established thing that everybody says, well, I know what this is going to sound like. And I think it's like putting on a mask for Halloween. You have a license to do something completely off the wall. People don't know what it's going to be.
When Dave Gallagher plays with his band, Microwave Dave and the Nukes, he features many different guitars, including a 4-string Sigtone by Philip Eggers.
When I pick up a Lobo or I pick up the Sigtone, the voice of that instrument has already started running inside me. I'm already hearing, in a way, what I think is going to come out of it. They have a different voice. And plus, I mean, these are both 4-stringed instruments, and all the other things I play are 6, so you immediately start chopping down your technique a little bit in terms of strumming and picking and all. And then the other factor is that the audience's attention is very different, especially if you're doing it like I do it, where you don't play a cigar box all night long. You play regular guitars, and all of a sudden you switch to a cigar box instrument and you have immediate visual attention.
The number one rule of playing a cigar box guitar is that there are no rules. This instrument is probably about as basic as they get. It's a 3-string fretless instrument, generally played with a slide, though you wouldn't have to.
You can use a 1, 2, 3, 4, or even 5 or 6 string cigar box guitar, but my first one was a 3-string. Well, the 3-string cigar box guitar tuned what they call open, which means it's tuned to a chord. So no fingers, you strum it, you have a chord. Well, that tuning is no different than an open-tuned 6-string guitar. You just have 6 strings instead of 3, which means you have 3 duplicated notes.
This instrument is a turbo diddly made by Kurt Shane. It's one of the nicest cigar box guitars that I know of. It's unique from a lot of them, and it's construction, of course, and the way that it plays, and certainly the fact that it has a spun aluminum resonator. In the cigar box guitar, the plans that were more widely circulated had 3 strings, and that probably has a lot to do with why 3 is, seen on a lot of them. If you try and make one, a cigar box guitar, and you use much more than, to me, I feel 4 is about as much as you want to use. I've made them with 5 and they tend to do okay, but beyond that, you really start to have to do more to reinforce the neck. This is an instrument that I made. It's a 4-string instrument, really played as 3 with a couplet at the bottom.
I make instruments and I sell them once in a while, and people will say things like, oh, well, the string buzzes a little bit. Well, of course it buzzes. It's a cigar box. It's supposed to, if it didn't buzz, buy a Taylor. If you want a cigar box, it's supposed to sound a little funny. That's why it's a cigar box.
We are rebelling against current technology, basically. Turn on the radio. Everything is so perfectly crafted. Everything sounds so perfectly edited. We are recording albums on some of the worst technology made on these cigar box guitars, and you know what? There's mistakes in them and everything else, but it's the sound of humanity. And this is our revolution.
Laid his head on his right shoulder, and death hath struck him nigh. Holy Ghost be with your soul, sweet mother now.
Timothy Renner took the prize for the most creative instrument at the extravaganza with his cigar box harp. But his main instrument is the banjo.
I play music that's inspired by the East and the West, by Arabic scales, I'm very interested in Moroccan music, Moroccan trance music, which I see goes hand in hand with American trance music, which is blues and old-time music. I see a strong connection there.
A candle for a corpse, a bell for the dead. Light the candle, ring the bell.
There's a very strong tradition of these, banjo players, Doc Boggs, Roscoe Holcomb, that just play these, what people deem dark songs. I think that my favorite quote about Doc Boggs is he'd be playing and he'd stop in the middle of a set and his band members would say, get out of the graveyard, Doc. But I do know that I can play what I feel is the happiest song in the world, and my friends will say, wow, that's dark.
Bread turns to flesh, life turns to death. The wheel of fortune turns, my love. The first is now the last.
The thing about this is family, and I can say that more so about this than any other festival type event I've ever been involved in. I've never met musicians that are so supportive of each other, that aren't competitive, and these guys will stop and they'll bend over and let you step on their back so you can get the apple. It's completely refreshing, it's completely new to me, and it's everything I always thought underground music should be, and never really found it until I met these guys.
The Memphis musician who collaborated with John Lowe to develop the Lobo inspired this group with a special birthday present.
Richard Johnston brought me a cigar box guitar. a Lobo. I got it, and I remember calling Tater saying, I just got the weirdest thing.
So he calls me and says, hey, I got this cigar box. And I go, cool, play it. Just play it, play it, play it.
I did, and Leaving Miss Blue was born.
That sound from the cigar box, just going back to the history of the blues, that pulsating driving sound has pushed so many people to where they are today. Take Buddy Guy, for instance. He would go and tear the screen off the window, pull the strands out, get a piece of wire, you know, get some sticks, and he would make a guitar out of a cigar box. Seeing the performers at the festival is an eye-opening experience. It's one common bond. You know, you see people from all over the country and they're a brother in this thing that we've got moving. I really think that it's going to be a big underground movement, and then people are going to have to recognize it as a genre. I think Shane Spiel is an outside-of-the-box thinker, and that's not a scary thing. Somebody had to take the horse by the reins, but he was the right guy for
it. Shane did bring a lot of us together through the forum, and he is so passionate just about the craft, not just building them, but also playing them. He is the king of cigar box guitar as far as I'm concerned.
Shane Spiel is a marketing manager with a zest for life and a lot of love for cigar box guitars.
People have been building cigar box guitars throughout history in isolation, and it was always sort of that humble step before buying a normal instrument. Nobody really played cigar box guitars as major instruments in a major movement until now. With the power of the internet, the power of the Cigar Box Guitar Forum, in working together, they're creating the first renaissance that this guitar has ever had. Daniel Carter Beard, the guy that started the Boy Scouts, he wanted these boys to discover their little inner primal selves. He thought boys were getting to be too prim and proper. Well, one of the articles he published was how to build a cigar box banjo. And now there's a rebellion of people saying, I need to strip away from all this. And like Daniel Carter Beard said, I need to get back to my inner savage and play the music that is truly in our hearts.
Jug Fusion. Slow motion's really
I think for anyone to seek out to be the king of the cigar box guitar, you have to be a little eccentric to begin with. Shane has brought together a bunch of nut buckets like myself that like to make instruments out of trash, and we like to make our own music and do it our own way. Shane's spiel is absolutely necessary for the resurgence of the cigar box guitar today.
The Cigar Box Guitar Revolution is a moniker pretty well pioneered by Shane Spiel, and it is his name for the effort to try and bring this instrument out of obscurity and to share this freedom that we have all found musically with everyone else.
There are a lot of cigar box hobbyists, people who play them, and they're not professional musicians. Now I think for them it's got to be tremendously liberating, that it's not just a poor imitation of a guitar or a banjo, it's actually, wow, what is that? It's got a unique sound to it. And for some people it probably brings some pretty dark corners of their personality out and lets them write songs around that.
That's what music is in its primitive form, is just what makes you happy. It's freedom. I could never play anything before because I didn't have the patience to learn the way people wanted me to learn.
You see people from all walks of life, and they're all having a great time and making some pretty stellar music.